Hello and welcome to the Barvé cast, the flagship podcast of all things Barvé. I'm your host, Meeta Barvé, and that song you're listening to is called Pull Me Under by Dream Theater, which just happens to be my next guest's all time favorite song. Very excited to have Sanket on the show today, all the way from Bangalore, Germany, and now Detroit. So let's get started and learn a little bit more about Sanket. All right. So today we have Sanket. Sanket, welcome to the show. Nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
Let's. Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners? Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Sanket Phadke. Who am I? I'm married to Meeta. If that's how you probably know me. Uh, I was born in Pune. For those who don't know, that's about the only time I lived there. Brought up in Bangalore or Bengaluru now. Basically lived there all my life till I was 22. Studied in St. Joseph's Boys High School. So I was in a boys' school right through and through, right? Fourth through 10th, 10th through 12, mechanical engineering, which is a boy it's a boy thing mostly. Uh, and after that, I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I worked in Pune for about 8 months, I think, in telco before I went to Germany in 2002. And there I did my master's in automotive systems. Lots of fun times living alone, and just sort of a totally different experience. And after that, I started off at GM in 2006 September. I think it's now been 17 years, and I'm still with GM. uh, it's been a fun journey. So I started off working with GM in Europe at Opel, and worked there for about 10 years, I think, 9 or 10 years, mostly performance engineering. Um, you know, and then I moved to the US on a special assignment, and in 2015. And since then, we've been in Michigan. So it's been fun. I mean, I know 17 years is a long time, but it's been very exciting. A lot of different challenges. Moved around within GM quite a lot, so totally enjoyed my time here. So that's a little bit about me.
And that's a really really good recap. That's awesome. But there's also a lot to unpack there, right? So let's go down. So you were born in Pune, like you said, right? How many siblings do you have?
I've got one brother, 5 years older to me. He is in Michigan as well, 8 miles away. So
So
the
right now he's very close. He was
so,
obviously, yeah, very close. Okay. So born in Pune, but you said you moved to Bangalore. So or Bangalore? How old were you when you moved to Bangalore?
probably few months. I think. Yeah, my dad used to work out of PRL in Ahmedabad back in the day, and then he sort of moved to ISRO in Bengaluru. So and he was in ISRO from I think 69 to or 71 to I don't know 85, 84, 85. So that's kind of why he moved. Um, and that's although I was born in Pune because he was already in Bangalore. He was already settled there, and that's kind of how we came back. But I think it was probably first few months, and that was pretty much it.
Okay. So moved. So you probably have zero recollections about Pune, right? You never really lived there, and you probably just remember Bengaluru, right? That's where like you said, you moved when you were young, and that's where you did your schooling and so on, right? You mentioned this. So you were in an all boys school, right?
All the,
All boys. Was that the same as your brother, or did you both have
it
different
was
names? Okay.
it was in
And
Joseph's. I joined like 4.5 years, 5 years later, and pretty much followed him through the 10th. And then he took a different line. He went into the pharmaceutical field. So I stayed in engineering.
okay. And then when you were growing up in school in Bangalore, tell us about how your life was. Did you have like a lot of friends? Were you, one or two close friends? What was school life like for you? Did you actually enjoy school?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's a while back now. I think I had a few friends. It sort of improved, or I think there were more. You start to have more friends as you go through those 6 7 years in school. So, I think towards the latter half of high school, right, 10th, there were a lot of friends, right, and some of them I know even today, right? There are a couple of them that we've been together from fourth through the 12th through engineering, and we're still in touch. So a couple of those friendships are, I guess, long lasting. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. A lot of good things, happened. Cool. It was very competitive, right? There was a lot of stress on sports. Although my folks were not super keen on it, I did take part in those events. But yeah, I mean, it was good. It sort of, I guess, helped me come out of my shell a little bit. I think more towards engineering. That's kind of where I really, but definitely helped with all those, debate competitions. I don't take part in any of them, but just sort of being part of that team and sort of thing really helped.
So you said you were. What sports were you playing? Were you playing cricket or were you playing something else?
So I played cricket and I played hockey, field hockey, uh, and also for I think 3 years I took part in track, mainly high jump. I actually won gold in one of them. No one really knows that.
That's also awesome,
Like,
man. You have an athlete superstar in our midst. That's so awesome.
I think that was a bit of a fluke. I mean, it was my first attempt in sixth grade, I think it was, and I wasn't expecting it, but just how it happened.
That's interesting. So you did end up spending a lot of time in sports, right? You played um, cricket, field hockey, did high jump for a little bit, got a gold medal. So would you say you're more of a studious kind of a person, or did you were you able to get good marks in spite of being spending so much time in sports?
Yeah, I think that's why my parents allowed me to continue with that because I managed to keep my grades high enough or high, right? But yeah, I think I sort of was able to manage both over a few years there in middle and high school.
Okay. So what position did you play in when you were in cricket? What were you, a bowler? Were you a batsman? All rounder?
When I started off, I mean, all through school, I was purely a bowler. But batted at number 9, 10. Very uh, so scared of the leather ball. But yeah, I mean, mostly bowled, outswing, and it sort of worked. It was fun. And I think now, today, I'm more of a batsman playing in mid-league. But over time, I think that transitioned a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to ask, but I guess you answered that, right? I mean, given the fact that you're a high jump, given the fact that you're tall, I would have guessed you would be like a seamer as opposed to a spinner, right? So that's what you said. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you ever represent your school in any competition, or were you always like on the backup team and the on the bench kind of a thing?
No, I represented school in eighth, ninth. Yeah, 10th was a little bit dicey with boards being sort of prioritized over sport. But yeah, I think sixth, seventh, eighth, even ninth grade, right? I did represent school in both cricket and a couple of years even in field hockey. So
Okay. And you seem to have done a good job of balancing academics and sports because you're doing both and giving good grades. But then apart from that, how were you like? Would you classify yourself as a mischievous person, or what was that personality like? Apart from outside of school, what was your personality like?
I, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I was. I As a kid, I didn't get into trouble as much as my brother did.
So he got in more trouble, is it? I'm surprised he didn't sort of drag you in with him. That's usually what happens when you have elder brothers.
He did. I'll say even when I did, he took the brunt of it. So I got lucky as the younger sibling.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So I know you said like he's 5 years elder to you, right? So did you spend a lot of time with him, or were his friends totally different, older, and your friends different? What was like growing up with him?
Yeah, I think with the age gap, after a certain point, I'll say, when he started, he was in eighth and ninth. I think he had a separate set of friends, and there was not a lot of interaction. I mean, we were always close, but it wasn't a ton of interaction, except, well, I guess, while playing in the building and stuff like that, right? With meeting up with cousins, but otherwise, he had a set of friends, and I think we really sort of got close again. I don't know, probably, just before he went to the US in 2000. So, and then, once I went to Germany, right, it was a short trip to the US. So that's kind of when we really sort of reconnected.
Yeah, so it sounds like you had some engagement. Then obviously, age difference comes in a way. Interests are different, right? But how about your like cousins? I know you moved from Pune, so I'm guessing whatever family you had would be in Pune, right? Did you get a chance to meet your cousins? And first of all, do you have a big family like the Barvés, or do you have it mostly on the constrained side?
So I mean, my dad side, I mean, he had just one brother, right? And their kids, and he was in the US already. So all his daughters grew up in the US. So very little, I'll say, contact there. Even today, I mean, it's limited, just because the fact that we've grown in two different continents, literally, right? And there's very little to connect, I guess. Um, his dad had brothers, right? So there were a lot of I say, second cousins, but the age gap was large. So in Pune, I think, the age gap between my brother and me and my cousins, right, is about 10-15 years. So not a lot. I'll say very. I mean, we interact, but it's still very limited. On my mom's side, on the other hand, all of them were in either Bangalore or Chennai. My mom's from Chennai, right? So we're a lot closer on my mom's side than on my dad's side. I think it's just like that everywhere for some reason. I don't know why, but mostly on your mom's side. And we grew up together, summer holidays. Eating over those vacations, and everyone's not too far away. So, even on weekends and stuff like that. And we had sort of common interest, cricket, and, we used to go watch matches and stuff like that. So,
Age difference is a very common theme, right? Because large families means a lot of age difference. So yeah, I didn't know your mom was from Chennai. So was she born and brought up there, or did she also move there just like you moved to
no,
Bangalore?
mom was actually born in Hyderabad. She's from a Tamilian family, right? So they're Ayers, right? So born in Hyderabad, brought up in, I think, a little bit in Chennai, mostly in Bangalore again. And that's how they settled in Bangalore as well. And she worked in ISRO as well, back in the day. That's kind of where the whole my dad and my mom met. So,
Oh, interesting. So it's like a work romance thing. I didn't know that. See, I'm learning more things about you. Cool. So, growing up, did you have Maharashtrian food in the house? Did you have Tamilian food? Did you have hybrid? What was cuisine like for you?
say hybrid. And my mom learned Marathi and Maharashtrian cuisine because she stayed there. After my brother was born in '75, right? She stayed there for a few years. So she became really fluent Marathi. She liked Maharashtrian food. So, and I mean, it would be a combination. I think breakfast was mostly South Indian, right? But lunch and dinner were always more Maharashtrian, except for, tiffin days when we had sort of, I'll say, more sort of tiffin even before lunch and dinner, right? So that was kind of a hybrid thing, I'd say.
Yeah. And I'm guessing Tamilian Iyer means non-veg is out of the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when was the first time you tasted non-veg? How did that happen?
So my dad used to eat, right, when we used to go out, because he used to travel so much. And I think it was less. Um, there was less restriction on his side, in when growing up. So he used to eat. My brother started to eat at a younger age as well. Never at home, and still not even today. Never at home. Right. But and after that, I think first time I had was probably in seventh or eighth grade. And yeah, I mean, since what was that, 92 probably? Yeah, that's probably when I had the first time. And then I stopped eating in like 2012, 13. I haven't had after that. So
Oh, okay. So you're a vegetarian now, complete vegetarian. Okay. What drove that change from a meat eater to a vegetarian?
I mean, for me, it was, when I went to Germany, right, there was very little choice in food. And given that you're studying and working, and very little time, so I used to, I mean, you put like slices and bread, meat slices and bread, and just whatever you can eat, right? But then when I really started cooking, I think in 2005, six, I had a Telugu roommate, and that guy was an awesome cook. So he sort of taught me a lot, and once I started cooking stuff, then I was like, "Hey, you know what, I don't need to eat every day." And then over time, I think gradually it just sort of went away.
Oh, okay, interesting. So it was like you weaned yourself, not purposely, but it just so naturally happened that you.
Just naturally happened.
Interesting. Okay. Well, actually, we jumped a little bit. So we pull it back now. So you did your 10th, you graduated, and then in Bangalore, is it the same as the SSC where you have junior college, or is 11th and 12th like an extension of the school? What is it there?
It's called pre-university college. So 11th, there was 11th and 12th as well, which was I think ISC. But I uh, I want to continue in St. Joseph's because I don't know, I just felt like home a little bit, and a lot of my friends were there. So what I did was what they call in Karnataka PUC, pre-university college, uh, and after that you sort of go and you take.
I'd not heard of that phrase before PUC, but I guess it's the same thing as junior college
Right.
In Mumbai. So okay, so I guess so 10 to 12 all in one school, kept your same set of friends. What was it that attracted you towards engineering? Was it mostly parents guiding you, or was it like a personal interest that you had for doing engineering?
I think it was a little bit of both. To be honest, especially, I mean, you probably correlate to this at that time. Growing up with in India, right? I mean, there's a little bit of pressure from parents as well. But I was inclined a little bit to science, so and math. So that kind of what drove me to engineering and not medical. But yeah, I mean, those are the choices at the time, right? I'd say, if you said commerce, they'd sort of frown upon it.
No, I know exactly what you mean because I'm a commerce graduate. So, I know exactly what you mean. I've gone through my sense of, those issues. But anyway, so yeah, so you did engineering. So did you do engineering in Bangalore or did you go out of station to do engineering?
No, I did engineering in Bangalore from RVCE in Bangalore. I was looking, at the time I even had admission in I think a couple of colleges in Pune. But then when it worked out in RVC right through CET, I'm like, yeah, you know what, I might as well stay in Bangalore.
So staying at home, eating mom's home cooked meals, and going to college every day, right? To me, that's the fun because that's my experience, right? I was living at home when I was in college, and that's like the best of both worlds, right? You get mom's cooking and you get to have a lot of friends. So, did your friend circle move with you from school to college? Did you have to make a brand new set of friends, or what was your social life like in college?
It was good. College was a lot of fun. It was, I think, I mean, three or four of my friends, like I said, we've stayed together from fourth grade through engineering, all through engineering. So we sort of moved all of us to mechanical, and that sort of sets you up nicely, I guess. And then we made some really good friends in college as well. Mostly, like I said, mechanical is a boys sort of thing. There were a couple of girls in our 120 student class, right, or two sections. But yeah, I mean, those friendships were pretty cool as well because we're all in touch even today. Yeah, college was lots of fun.
I bet. I mean, engineering. I haven't been an engineering student myself, but I know people who have been engineering, and they've obviously had a blast, right? So, would you still consider that your best phase, or are there other phases as you look back now, right? Not necessarily studiously, right? Not necessarily academically, but if you look at those phases of life in school, college, job, is that in your still the best part, or how would you
Yeah,
rate your engineering 4 or 5 years?
I think that was probably after the first 6 months. I think the 3.5 years were probably one of the best phases, I'll say. With
So,
we just did there was a good mix of I'll say studying obviously, but a good mix of sports and traveling and that sort of thing that we did, and made some really really good friends. Made a fool of ourselves a number of times, right? And it was good overall.
so now that you bring it up, give me an example of when you made a fool of yourself.
I mean, in general, like I mean, where we used to. There was this time, I think, in second year where none of us went to class for a few months, and we used to play a lot of snooker and pool outside of the engineering college, which was really, it was on a highway, Mysore Road, right? And and yeah, I mean, getting pulled up by the head of the department, and your parents are that sort of thing. But your grades never fell, so they never really understood why we missed college, and um, all the funny anecdotes about going up and talking to girls, trying to impress them. There was one time where a friend of mine and I were on a bike. It was a ESD, and I told him, you know what, I'm going to do a wheelie. These curves of show you how it's done. And I went up on obviously, the bike went up as I wanted it to, and then I lost control and I went straight under the glass. So that type of thing, right? I mean, we've done some crazy stuff like that for no reason, really. But we laugh about it.
So you graduated mechanical, but sounds like you're also into sports still then. So did you continue to play cricket when you were in college and you represent college, or was it just fun time you played for?
Yeah, it was more fun. I didn't represent college. I It was more sort of department matches is what we played. There were still leather ball games, but I didn't play for college. No, I wish I should. I mean, thinking about it, but
So now that you think about about it, right? You lived in Bangalore, you did everything in Bangalore. Do you regret not going out of Bangalore to do your engineering and studies and to experience a non-Bangalore, or are you sort of happy that you stayed in Bangalore for all of your academic life?
I'm happy with that. I think that was the. I mean, at the time, I think even now when I look back at it, I think it was probably the right decision. I have no regrets there.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I guess living abroad when I went to Germany, it's been like I mean yourself, right? I mean, it's been a couple of decades now. I think I haven't gone back.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, right? So what was, after you graduated, was Germany your first job, or did you have like any other job before that, coming out of college?
So I worked at Telco and Tata Motors in Pune for about 7 months after engineering before I went to Germany, 7 8 months maybe, um, and worked on the cylinder block line for the Tata Sumo, I think it was at the time, and then the Indica program was just sort of getting kicked off. It was a super secretive program at the time. No one would let us go in, but we worked on those programs. But like it was project trainee engineer, right? So just starting off, a lot of good things to learn. It was pretty cool. Good first experience. I stayed with my granddad, and that was fun as well. Had the bike in Pune. That's why I know Pune a lot, because I had the bike, and we made some really good friends, and I drove around quite a lot. So I sort of know everything in Pune because of that.
Yeah, you were there only for 7 months, but you're independent, living with a grandfather, earning money, right? Had money to spend. So yeah,
Exactly.
but I had a bike, so you could do whatever. But
No
you're only
regret.
there for 7 months, right? So talk to me about how Germany came about. Were you looking to move to Germany, or it just so happened that this job that you're looking for, which sounded interesting, happened to be in Germany? What was that journey like?
Yeah, I was, I guess, sort of an interesting choice for me because I mean, there was, I was looking to do a master's in automotive systems, and Germany had a few courses that they were starting to offer in English, and there was this thing in my head about Germany and cars and all of that at the time that I thought it'd be cool to research, and that's kind of how it started. And I started looking at a few colleges, sent my applications, and then there was one college in the US, U of M, in Michigan, that also offered an automotive systems course. So, and a couple of my friends that applied to that as well. And it was a choice between that, right? I mean, once both happened, I had to decide where I want to go, and I chose Germany. I mean, I just thought it's a sort of away from the conventional path a little bit. Give it a shot, see what happens. Although my parents were to go to the US, my brother was in Michigan. uh,
Right. For sure, it was a off-beaten path, right? Even now, it's not like a looked upon destination either academically or from a job perspective. Obviously, given the language you like, but here you are, right? You applied, you got a job. Was it a fairly straightforward interview process, or did they really take you to the ringer? Because obviously you didn't know German then, but what was the interview process like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it was I'd say fairly straightforward. I mean, the course was in English. You obviously had to, I think it was TOEFL at the time. I can't remember if I gave GRE, but you needed those scores. And outside of that, I think it was a pretty standard interview process. Why do you want to do your master's? What's your, what do you have in your head? Why does that excite you? That type of thing. So nothing super different from, I guess, what I had to put together for U of M. Uh,
Right.
so,
So you are now a student in Germany,
yeah,
right? And how long was the course for? How long was the course for?
it was I mean, it was a 2 year course if you did it intensively. Yeah, there were a lot of there was a lot of coursework in that master's degree. They had it set up a little different compared to the masters in the US. So it was supposed to be. I mean, you could finish it in 2 years. I think I took 2.5. Just because my master thesis sort of went about 8 months. But yeah, I mean, well, I'd say October 2003 to June 2006, or April 2006. Yeah, that's kind of what I.
So a student for 3 years, and was this the first time you were out of India when you
Yeah,
went to Germany? Yeah.
first time.
So that must have been a huge culture shock, right? Landing in Germany. What were the first 6 months like?
It was. I mean, it was a culture shock. Some of it I was expecting. I mean, I'd taken before I went there. I'd done like I don't know, 3 or 4 levels or 6 levels of German in Deutsch at Goethe Institute, right? So I mean, I knew, I'd say, basic conversational German, but um, it was a bit of a change compared to India. I think the biggest culture shock for me was um, stuff closing at 12 p.m. on a Saturday. This was back in 2003, right? Now it's very different, but back in that day, it was like 12 p.m. everything shuts, and if you don't get your stuff by midday, you got to wait till Monday. Everything is closed, right? And it's a student town, right? So that kind of it was a bit of a shock coming from India, right? When things are open all the time. So
Did you have like you went there by yourself, right? So did you have social life? Did you have friends, or did you know anyone when you moved there?
so I had a couple, right? I mean, there was one that was with me in college who had gone there a few weeks before me because he had to sort of do his German language course, and there was another one a year senior to us who was there as well. And yeah, I made friends pretty quickly there. I mean, it was a pretty small batch. I think there were about 18 to 20 of us in that course, and yeah, we sort of gelled pretty quickly, and it was sort of international, right? So they were very. I'd say there was just one German in that English speaking course. Everyone else was from outside, so we didn't speak German a lot, right? Most of the conversation was in English. Coursework was in English, and you needed German really when you worked in the different institutes when you were talking with the professors and stuff like that. So.
How many of them were Indian? Like, did you have any Indian friends there? As
Yeah.
you mentioned, you had a Telugu roommate, right? But was he the only one, or
No, he was in a different course, but I think in my course there were about I think five or six Indians.
okay? So you had a fairly big Indian
Oh,
representation.
I mean, and there were other courses. There was I mean, I did in automotive systems. There was one in internal combustion engines, which had about 20 or 30 students. One in quality systems, which had a few students. So there were different courses, and every set had, I'd say, at least 15% Indian students, right? And the rest of them
Okay.
were not very many German speaking students, at least at the time.
So were you living by yourself, or did you have like an Indian roommate or a non-Indian roommate?
Yeah, no, I live by myself mostly. The rooms, I mean, the weren't too crazy at the time. But yeah, I think initially when I went in, I lived with a friend of mine for 2 or 3 months until I found my own place, and then it just you sort of moved different places every time. And the idea was to get into a student hostel, right? Because that was the cheapest with internet, but you had to sort of contend with a common kitchen and that sort of thing. So that was a sort of a interesting experience.
But you were there for like 2.5 years, and then you got offered a job in Opel, right? So was this campus placement? Did you look for a job? Were you looking to come back to India? What happened there?
Yeah, there was no campus placement per se at the time in Aachen. It was sort of once we hit our third semester, we just started looking for internships and jobs, third or fourth semester, and um, and yeah, that's kind of how it happened. They were actually there's a funny story there because I first got offered a job with BMW in and everything. I signed the contract. And they were processing my visa, and I was on a plane to go meet my brother because I was starting in a month. And as I sat on the plane, I got a call saying your visa cannot be processed because of some complications on the east side of Germany. This job was in Dresden, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I can't really get off the plane. So I just flew to the US, and when I was there for a couple of weeks, all I was doing was looking for jobs because my visa was up in September and it was like June. And my brother's wedding was in July, so it got to a point where I almost missed my brother's wedding, right? And I told I came back. This happened by chance, and it was sort of the time of the football World Cup, and they wanted to schedule interviews over a longer period of time, and I sort of had to tell them, I did have another consulting job on offer at the time, so to tell them either you do it in a couple of weeks or I can't I can't go through with it. So fortunately it worked out, and I'll be honest, and I signed the contract the day I flew to India. So I went to Frankfurt, took a train down to Opel, signed the contract, picked up my luggage, got on a plane, and came to my brother's wedding.
Wow. So that must have been a really stressful time, right? Like you have left the country, no job, looking for jobs. So I would imagine that must have been pretty stressful couple of months for you over there, right? Going back and forth.
It was sort of crazy, especially at the time. I mean, I was working. I worked in a bar for a long time as a side hustle kind of thing. It was kind of a cool gig. A couple of nights, you make a lot of money. Where once you register for your master thesis, you're not allowed to work. They still allowed me to work, not paid in cash. So those couple of months were a little. I'm not super proud of it, but that money was important at the time.
No, I hear you. And interesting that you worked in a bar. That must have been some fun times too, right? So, is there like one drink that you can make even with your eyes closed? I'm sure you learned to make a lot of drinks, but what drink can you make with your eyes closed?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't. I saw the bartenders make a lot of drinks. I was mostly serving them at the time because you're not allowed to make drinks as students. I don't know, man. I mean, probably a margarita, probably at this point. I can't remember. I mean, I don't remember everything they did, but yeah, probably. If I think back, it was probably a margarita. I can't really think of it.
Yeah. So, how long were you working before this whole relation with Meeta started? Were you like looking to get married? Was it like a natural progression, or was it something that your parents sort of kept asking you questions that made you look? So how long did that take between, okay, now I got a job, now I need to get get married, kind of a thing, right? That's a every Indian has their own story of how that journey goes, right? Now that I started making money and now I need to get married. So just curious how what that journey looked like for you.
think it was a couple of years at least before I actually met Meeta. I think I started talking to her in 2008 in December, I think. Um, or maybe a couple of months before that. So it was a couple of years before that happened. Once I got the job, I had no intention of getting married at the time. You're making money. I want to travel a little bit, and then that type of thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, first thing I did, I think, was I moved from Mainz to Frankfurt, downtown, because that's kind of where was a fun place to be, and I had some friends there already. So yeah, I mean, and then I just sort of try to you know travel around, build a social circle out in Frankfurt and that sort of thing for a couple of years.
What I mean, I don't know. There's many people who are listening to this may probably know, but was she recommended through someone, or how did you first find out and get in touch with Meeta?
That happened, I think, through the famous Marathi matrimony.com. I think that's how it happened, and yeah, I mean, her, her mom, she probably hate me for saying this. Her mom sent me her, you know. Uh, Send my dad, not me. But her resume is hell, and she probably still, she'll never forgive her mom for that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's kind of how it happened. I mean, saw a couple.
It worked out in the end, right? So you can't really blame anyone. So just curious, do you happen to have that? Does she have the resume handy? Like, yeah, she kept it as a keepsake? Do you know?
I have it.
You have it. Oh, that's very interesting. You have her resume. That is very interesting. Okay. Does she have yours? Yours? Do you know?
I think a lot of my detail was in Marathi. I don't know why your mom said that. She's you got to ask her. You got to ask her.
Okay, I guess I will. So yeah, so you started talking to her in October, December 2008, and then you got married like I think 2011, right? So it was quite a while.
2009. We actually
2000. That's right. 1 month after we got married, right? So
yeah,
2009. Yeah,
right,
that's
your wedding, right? 2009 we got engaged, and we used that, and then 2009 December we got married.
so. I'm curious. Had you met her before you decided to get married to her, or had you already decided based on phone conversations that I found the girl I want to marry?
Yeah, it was all phone conversations and video conversations. And the first time we met, I think, was when I flew to Bombay in March, April. I can't remember, 2009.
Oh wow! So when you went there, you had already decided to get engaged, right? So essentially, the first time you met, you guys already knew that you are going to get married, right?
Yeah,
That's
style,
okay. But I find that extremely scary, right? But I think it's very natural for the Indian process at that point in time, right? Especially if you're living abroad, that's a very natural process. So yeah. So I mean, I asked her, right, that hey, you had a comfortable. At that time, she was working, so but then she decided to move to Germany. So I asked her what made her move, and I'll tell you what she told me. But what do you think happened? Do you think you convinced her? Was she willing to move? Was it like a tough sell that hey, let's get married and move to Germany, or what do you think was tougher there?
That's funny. I don't think we ever had a detailed conversation. I think she was sort of looking to travel around as well a little bit. And Europe, I mean, I'm guessing, right? And Europe gives you that opportunity, right? That's kind of maybe how I sold it to her at the time. I don't remember. Uh, and and I think and there was no real issue with visas and stuff like that in Germany, right? To get a job, the market, it was not like the US where you got to get past one stage and then another stage before you get an EAD and can work and that sort of thing. So I think that option was always open to her, right? Whenever we want to go out and start looking, the market's there for you to go out and do that. So I feel like that's what sold it to her. But I don't know what she said.
No, I hate to say it because I would have loved to have some conflict there, but it was that's pretty much what he said. Like he was like, "Yeah, this is the guy I'm going to marry, so I'm going to go wherever he's going." So it wasn't a bit. At least the way she said, it wasn't a big struggle, and you can ask her yourself. So yeah, so you decided to get married to her, and obviously that's where you had the first introduction to this huge family we call Barvé. So do you remember your first ever Barvé event where I wouldn't like to use the word paraded, right? But that's probably what it was. You felt like you were being paraded. Do you remember your first event where everyone was there and
Well, I think what my recollection of when I was there in Bombay the first time of sort of me going or Meeta taking me to every floor in the old Aadhaar and and getting interviewed by everyone in those four or five floors that were there, right? And I remember Anuja, she sort of properly grilled me.
oh, she did. That's interesting. I did not know that. So what questions did she ask you? Do you remember?
I felt like she was the one that grilled me the most, amongst everyone in that build in the building, right? No, in general, it was pretty natural questions, I think, but she was more out of concern for me. uh, yeah,
That's very interesting. I did not know that. So that's again stuff I'm learning. And it was very interesting because she is the youngest, right, in our generation. So it was curious that she was the one doing a lot of the questions. So okay. But after that, I'm sure you've attended a whole bunch of Barvé events, right? So do you have one that stands out more than others?
I think I think the one that would stand out for me is probably Shruti's wedding, um, just because of I was there for the entire thing, and it was a scene, man. I tell you, I mean, it was fun, right? I mean, those 5 or 7 days in Pune, going through all the some mehendis and the ceremonies, the 4 different days of events that Shruti had, and every event was different in its own right. I think it was really nicely done, and it was super fun. So I think that probably stands out for me, probably because it's most recent in my memory.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because you probably know this, but in that generation, you are the first Damaji,
yeah,
right? The first Damaji, but it just so happens that you didn't live in India after that, right? You escaped to Germany, so people didn't really have a chance to
yeah,
sort of nag you or harass you or whatever the first Damaji goes through, right? So you do have the honor of being the first Damaji, but unfortunately you are in Germany, so you don't have it. But yeah, so Shruti's wedding was like very recent, right? So it's like just before COVID.
yeah,
So it's very interesting you say that. I guess that's because you spent the longest time there, right? That's where you were exposed to a whole bunch of
everything.
members and the events, and I'm sure you were given special importance at that time because you're obviously the elder sister's husband, right? So I'm sure there was a special importance to you at that time as well, right, during the wedding.
Probably. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess I just loved it. I mean, I just loved the whole the way that everything was done. And then there was Anushri's wedding after that as well. But I had to I could only be there for a couple of days for her wedding. That was cool as well. Right, almost right after. But I had to head back to Bangalore for a couple of days. So I think I missed the festival between. So, but those two were definitely fun events. Looking forward to the ones coming up in December now.
So yeah, so again, we've sort of skipped ahead a little, which is fine. But so lived in Germany and got married with Meeta, and we went through all these tangential discussions. But then you ended up moving to the US, right? So was that a natural move? Was it something you were looking to do? Was it coincidental? How did that move happen, moving from Germany to the US?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Germany, I sort of realized that there's probably a limit to your career aspirations just because of how I want to be careful when I say this, but just because how I'll say close that society is a little bit. I mean, they like to have you know. I mean, it's like that in across I think Europe, right? Germans and French, you sort of see them in more sort of leadership positions. And it was uh, tough to break out of it a little bit, and it really yeah, I think for me the change happened when we got uh, a director of the US who came to Opel for a special assignment, and that sort of started to set it up for me since 2011 through 2015. And we're still friends, right? He's retired, and I still sort of meet him on a regular basis, like a mentor to me at this point. But yeah, I mean, we and he and another I'd say manager in the US, right? There was a there was a need for sort of a integration specialization job in performance engineering, and they asked me if I was interested, and that's sort of how it happened. And and yeah, it was supposed to be a 3-year deal, but GM ended up selling Opel in 2017, and at that point they just localized me, right, in the role, in a different role, but
So, and you've been there for like 8 years now, right, in the US. So, would you do you think this is it in terms of where you find yourself living, or are you now itching and curious and looking at moving out just because you've been here for a while?
I think probably another move I wouldn't mind making, and Meeta is probably, I know she's on board. We're still sort of contemplating that decision whether we move back to India at this point, because I mean, there's a lot of good opportunity in India, and the uh, I think financially or pay wise, you shouldn't. There's not a lot of reason to be worried if you get the right role, obviously. Um, but yeah, I mean, if there's other opportunities that come up in Europe for a couple of years, I think we'd be definitely willing to take it.
Interesting. So you're okay with anywhere outside, like India? Will I guess what I'm hearing is India is your first preference, but if not India, then anywhere in Europe would be okay too. So do you have like a country in place where you would love to be if not India from a work perspective?
I guess from a work perspective, Germany is all I've known. So I, I'm going back now. I think I might be in a better position than I was, yeah, 10 years back. But yeah, I mean, I know GM has some stuff, in Switzerland, and they have some, they're re-entering the European market through their, through that. So yeah, I mean that's definitely something I'd like to, if it comes about, then we might definitely. It'd be a couple of years, but that would be something that I might
Sounds like you've already thought it out, and
in my head.
yeah, you moved to Michigan. Obviously, it's natural fit. All the big car makers are in Michigan. Your brother's in Michigan, so it seemed like a natural direction, right? But I guess going out would be a more interesting journey if at all you take that. So I'll be curious to see, where you land up and when. I won't say if, but sounds like you both of you are reaching to make the move. So let's see, what happens, where you end up. Okay, so now that's great. We covered a lot of your stories, but now let's dive a little deeper into knowing you, right? So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. It's an either or kind of a thing. No wrong answers, no right answers. It's just to get to know your preference. Okay.
Okay.
So I start with this one, which is I ask everyone: iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
iPhone. What's your current phone?
iPhone 14, no, iPhone 13.
How often do you upgrade? When the phone dies, or do you have like a set cadence every 2 years, every 3 years?
Say every 3 years. I mean, because I don't. I mean, there's nothing really new coming out at the moment. So
Next one, beer or wine?
yeah,
Beer, of course. Living in Germany, do you have like a? I'm sure you miss the German beers in the US, right? What beer or what type of beer do you miss the most in the US from Germany?
oh, I think the one that I've not got, and you get the export quality here. It's called Augustino Brau. That's probably the one beer that I miss the most. You don't get that. You don't get that. You don't get the same taste. You get an export quality, which is sort of okay.
So I'm guessing that once you're in Germany, it's hard not to enjoy beer, right? Because that's the culture there. You have so many choices. Did you ever visit Oktoberfest in Munich, anytime?
Oh yeah, I think what, three times in total. Once with Meeta, a couple of other times with friends. So yeah, it's a blast.
All right, let's go to the next one. So, WhatsApp or some other messaging app? What do you guys end up using?
WhatsApp most.
WhatsApp, yeah. Is that the only one, or do you do iMessages for your American friends?
No, I think it's WhatsApp mostly.
WhatsApp mostly. Okay. TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram, although I'm trying to get out of Instagram.
Are you a voracious consumer, a voracious poster, or somewhere in the middle? How do you classify yourself?
Not a poster, mainly a consumer. But I think it's you once you get into it, you end up wasting so much time that last couple of days I've not looked at it.
Okay. So when you have free time, would you rather read a book or would you rather go see a movie?
I'd probably go see a movie at this point. Yeah,
What's the most interesting movie you watched in recently?
I think the one that I liked was Top Gun, right? The Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. I think was there was another one I watched. I don't remember which one, but it wasn't great.
So if you want to watch movies and you're home, is it Netflix for you or is it some? What's your favorite streaming platform when at home?
I guess whatever has the good movies, Netflix, Prime, there's Hulu as well that has some good movies. So I guess if there's anything good playing and Meeta has some good recommendations. I mean, she has the mostly the recommendations, so I wouldn't mind watching it. Although I'm looking forward to Indiana Jones coming on streaming because I missed that.
Okay, so Bollywood music or English music? What's your favorite?
Uh, I I think now it's Bollywood. It used to be English at previously, but now it's more Bollywood.
It's interesting. What's made that changes? Because Meeta is more into Bollywood, or is that something naturally you sort of gravitated towards?
Probably, right? I think I still listen to a lot of English music, but I think with Meeta coming, I think there was a lot more Hindi music playing with I mean, the more recent ones, right? I had a really bad taste in Hindi. Mine used to be all older songs, and Meeta's seen my collection. It's terrible. But that's the kind of music I liked. And then there'd be like very fast-paced English sort of songs. But I think over the last few years, Bollywood's become really peppy, man. Some really good music there. Good fun.
So I asked Meeta this because I thought she would be old enough. I think you would be. So watching Friends or watching Seinfeld?
Oh, Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. Who's your favorite character then?
Oh, Kramer. It's got to be. I mean, I don't think there's a comparison. So.
Have you watched the entire series? Because I'm guessing you started watching it when it was either on its way out or already out, right? So did you catch up from start to finish, or do you end up watching whatever happens to be showing on those channels these days?
I've watched it multiple times, start to finish. I can still watch it. It's fun. Yeah. I think except the bit of a letdown, everything else was just phenomenal.
Sorry, what was the letdown?
The finale, the last two episodes.
Okay, cool. Just two more to go. So, zombies or ghosts?
Ghosts.
Ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Okay. Are you scared of ghosts?
I don't know. I've lived alone long enough that I don't know anymore. I used to be at one point, but I don't know.
Okay.
The fear of the unknown, I guess. But
that's fair. Cool. Last question. Italian or Mexican?
No, Italian for me.
What's your favorite dish?
I don't know. Probably the risotto or any sort of stuffed tortellini with maybe sauces, vodka sauce, or any of their. Actually, I like my all-time favorite is probably going to be the all'arrabbiata, just pesto all'arrabbiata, pasta all'arrabbiata, just the stuff that you get in Italy, right? And it's nice and spicy, and Yeah,
And do you have a preference over red sauce or white sauce on your pasta?
red sauce.
Red sauce all the time? Yeah, no Alfredos.
No, Alfredos.
Okay, so let's now move to. We are coming close to the end, so let's now move to the yes no thing. Very
Okay.
similar to the either or, except they are going to be a little embarrassing. So I'm going to ask you question. You answer yes or no, no judgment, and we move on. Okay. All right. Question number one: have you ever thought a friend's baby was ugly?
No.
Have you ever made a prank call?
Yes.
Have you ever faked sick from work?
No.
Have you ever fallen asleep at work?
No.
Have you ever peed in a pool?
No.
Have you ever sung in public?
Yes.
Have you ever thrown up on someone?
No.
Have you eaten or tasted beef ever in your life?
Yes.
Yes. Have you ever cheated on a test?
No.
Have you ever broken something at a friend's house and not told them?
Yes.
That was easy. There was a surprising number of no's there. Meeta had a lot more yeses. And if you listen to her recording, I'm pretty sure. But let's now move to the last section. So let's move to the Barvé Cast challenge.
Oh.
If there was one person from the extended family that you would like to see and hear about and listen to for an hour, who would that be?
I want to say Advait, if he's considered extended Barvé family.
He is, just like your extended Barvé, he is too. I don't see why not, right?
I'd like to say Advait.
Okay, fair. And if there was one question you want me to ask him, what would that be?
What did you really do in the army?
I think there's a lot of background information about that, but I think I can ask him that question. Absolutely. No, yes, I'll see if I can get Advait in front of me. I'll definitely try and do that. And if I do, I will ask him, what did he really do in the army? Yeah, I will try and get him on. Sanket, I cannot thank you enough for spending all of your time. I know it's Sunday. Really appreciate you. Have been such a sporting person. Thank you again for all of time, and hopefully this has been interesting for you. I know my listeners are really going to devour every single minute of this interview. So thank you again, and it was nice having this chat.
No, thanks, Amir. This is awesome. Thanks. I mean, it's actually pretty cool that you're actually doing something like this. Very unique. I think it'd be fun to sort of see everything come together.
And that's a wrap for this show. Thank you all for listening. I'm your host, Meeta Barvé. I will see you next time. In the meantime, here is Sanket's all-time favorite song. This is Pull Me Under by Dream Theater.